Hey, everybody, this is Dr. William Clark here for Leadership Conversations. This is the show where we talk about leadership according to the world that matters to you. And I want to come on quickly and encourage all you leaders out there to embrace the push. Being a leader is a challenge in and of itself, and it requires a whole lot of something that sometimes is hard to describe. And that something is this internal desire to win, to succeed, to lead, to achieve goals and results, regardless of what happens and who's standing in the way. And ultimately, not everybody has it, which it differentiates people from being a leader versus a manager. In my world of leadership studies, we call that the ability to self-lead or self-leadership. And self-leadership is what it sounds like. It's defined as being able to lead yourself to achieve a subset of goals or objectives that you've identified for yourself without needing any external motivation or pushing from a leader. Over you. Now, it doesn't mean that self leaders don't have leaders. We certainly do. But what it means is that you don't need anybody to push you, to influence you, to lead you to a certain point before you feel motivated to do what you got to do for yourself and for your team. And so this podcast is about embracing the push. Now, there are different ways that you are going to be pushed as a leader. Some are going to come internally through self leadership, some are going to come externally through forces that are outside of you. And it may come from people and circumstances or situations, but regardless of where it comes from, embrace the push. All right, now here's the first thing I want to share with you. The push to do something may come from unlikely sources. It may come from people that you may consider a friend or not a friend. It may come from a foe. It may come from a competitor. It may come from a customer. It may come from somebody you don't know. It may come from anybody or anything. And the most inspirational things that causes us to be great and to do great things comes from people who are pushing us and they don't even know it. And I've been in situations where I've been pushed to do things and I didn't realize I was being pushed till after the fact. And that can happen too. But you got to be aware of the fact that the pushing to get to your goals may in fact come from an unlikely source. Number two, embrace the challenge the push provides. Sometimes the push may come in a form that is completely uncomfortable and in a way that you just don't like it. And it happens that way sometimes. But embrace the challenge that comes with it. Sometimes you are prepared for the push mentally, emotionally, physically. And even when you are prepared, you still have to create the space and the capacity to embrace the challenge that comes along with that. And this leads me to number three. If you're going to be aware or look out for unlikely sources that are going to push you, and you're going to embrace the challenge that comes with the push, then you're going to have to plan as a result of what you're embracing, right? It's not enough to say, I'm going to allow this thing or this person to push me. The question you got to ask yourself is, to what end? To what end am I going to allow this to push me to my destiny or to a desired goal or outcome? To what end am I going to allow this person to be influential in my life? To what end am I going to allow this circumstance to influence my decision making? To what end? And that question has to be answered. And if you don't have a pre-existing plan for your business, for your department, for your leadership, for your life, you need to get one, because when the pushing comes, you may wrongly dismiss the pushing or dismiss the challenges that come as a result of the pushing, not realizing how it perfectly aligns with the plan that you have. There's a scripture that says, a man has a multitude of plans in his heart, but the path that he ultimately takes is destined and designed by God. And this sometimes is how it happens. We believe we're going to get to point A, from point A to point B, by way of the plan that we have. But there are times where God throws things in the way to redirect us or to enhance or to advance our plans. But you can't see God working in your life, in your business, in your job, in your relationship, if you don't know where you're starting from, which is the plan. So you got to have a plan. Here's the fourth thing about embracing the push. Once you understand the role of the push in your life, in your career, in your relationships, you got to execute on what you're observing. If you're noticing that the push is coming from a certain person who has certain influence over you by way of a relationship, whether it's employment relationship or personal relationship or other, and they are challenging you, and the challenge that they are placing upon you or making you face is really a kind of accessory to your plan. Once you observe this stuff, you can't just sit on it and say, "Oh, I notice what you're doing and I appreciate it." You can't just say, "Great, don't stop." You got to do something with the experience. You got to execute on what you're observing and what you're seeing. And if you're seeing that the push is going to add significant value to your life, to your career, to your leadership, do something about it. Embrace it. Put it to work. Make sure it has an active part in your life, in your career, in your decision making. And this leads me to my final point about embracing the push. As you're executing what you're observing, reassess the progress you're making along the way so you can constantly remind yourself of where you started and where you're going to end up. That reminder is not meant to distract you, nor is it meant to bring up old feelings, nor is it meant to cause you to take a step back and go backwards. It's meant to create a feeling and an awareness of appreciation for the journey. That journey is big time for you. The journey from getting to where you are to your ultimate leadership destination is a challenge, and it's rewarding at the same time. If you're not taking the time to appreciate the journey, you will not be able to tell others how you did it because people are going to wonder. You're not going to be able to appreciate the destination once you get there. You're not going to appreciate people. So when you finally get to where you want to be, you're going to be there by yourself. You got to take the time to assess what's happening real time so that you can appreciate the experience as a result of the push. I hope you find this helpful. Follow, like, and subscribe to this podcast on Facebook, Instagram, TV, Twitter, and YouTube. And subscribe and follow us on your favorite podcasting platform. This is Dr. William Clark for Leadership Conversations, and we'll see you in the next show.